Welcome to Hustle and Healing, the Real Talk podcast on pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. I'm your host, Jessica Lauser, here for the raw stories, honest laughs, and everything in between. Let's dive in.
Maybe I like the customer service voice better. I don't know.
I know. It's funny because I work from home too, so sometimes my husband's like, he can tell because I'm like, hi, this is Jessica. Like, how may I help you? And he's like, you don't answer the phone like that for me.
I'm like, what do you need?
Yeah.
What?
You good?
Yeah. Is everything all right? Is Violet good? Yeah? Okay. All right. Why are you calling?
Yeah.
This could have been a text.
All the time. Or if someone texts you, or I text someone and then they call me, I'm like,
Why?
I was texting you.
For a reason, because I didn't want to talk on the phone.
Right.
Like, I get paid to talk on the phone. So I'm not doing that for free on my off time. Not at all.
Exactly.
No, that's the worst thing I could do is also, like, if you text me, then I know exactly what you need versus like a phone call and then later you're like, oh, I had to call you back because I forgot. Send me a text because it has everything you need and then I can address everything.
All your needs.
All your needs. Don't call me ever. Which sounds terrible because my dad's like, hey, did you make it home? And I'm like, yeah, remember how like I started sharing my location with you so like you could tell when I made it home? You're like, I don't know how to use that. Okay. All right. So you just click my name there and it'll say like what city and state I'm in, and then even show you like the exact street I'm on.
Yes.
Live.
I know. I set my mom up with that. And I also got my mom and stepdad on AirTags because they came down here and were having a lovely day at the beach. Lost their keys.
No.
Car was stuck in the parking garage at Oceanfront. And so then we had to go pick them up. And then they came back, borrowed one of our cars, drove to Fredericksburg because they're in Fredericksburg.
Oh,
so then
they get the spare key.
Yes. So now we have a spare key. But I also was like, where do you think you... And so they're just like pacing everywhere trying to figure out what these keys are. And I was like, Mom, you need to get an AirTag. So they now both have AirTags. Like my husband has his wallet. Like he has an AirTag on his wallet. Like
I should do that.
Everything. And then I also was like, and here, because she was like, well, I wonder when he's going to get home. I was like, I can take all that wonder.
All that, like, where are you? What, are you okay? Well, if you open up this app, click this button, you can see the direct location. Because they'll call us. Like my in-laws live in Boston or Billerica, and so we'll be driving. I like to leave at like 9 o'clock at night because I'm a psychopath and I will drive those 9 hours through the night because there's no traffic.
Good. Yeah, I would rather do that too. And then the kids are sleeping if you take kids.
Yeah, well, Violet's sleeping, and Mark likes to be a passenger prince, as I call him. And I drive, and then I'll get like a text or a phone call. I'm like, were you guys there? Are you safe? And I'm like, first of all, I'm driving, so like, trying to be safe.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Go to bed. I'm like, oh, I'm just stay up all night waiting to see where you are and make sure you make it. I'm like, but you can just watch my location. Like as you wake up, roll over. Oh, okay, she's in Pennsylvania now. Go back to sleep.
Yeah.
You decide, oh God, is she okay? Oh, she's in Massachusetts now. Go back to sleep.
Yes.
Well, I know. I get it. They love us. But
we can help them. Well, we'll kind of jump in. So, Morgan, thank you for coming this week for the Hustle and Healing podcast. So, for everyone, this is Morgan Hourihan. And so, Morgan, you are a mom of one beautiful little girl, Violet.
Yes.
How old is Violet now?
She will be 16 months on the 16th.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's beautiful. She is insane.
I can't wait to kind of dive into those because I feel like you're at that age where it's just so much learning. So much learning and
for both of us.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Or Josie is 11 months today.
Oh.
So I was like, oh yeah. My brother's birthday today too. So I was like, oh, the celebrations. And then you're a military spouse to Mark.
Yes.
And what branch is he in?
Navy.
Okay. Any recent deployments?
No. We kind of lucked out that his ship is not going out for a little bit. So.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a real touch and go. Like it was, I think Violet was like 4 months, and it was like every week they're like, all right, like we're getting you on this plane. You're gonna go like meet your ship on deployment, and then we would like say our goodbyes. I'd be like teary eyed, and then he'd call me like an hour later, be like, my flight got canceled, and I'm like, like yay, like you get to come back, but also like we did that 4 times, and I was like, my heart can't take saying goodbye to you, like again, like, and then like with our kids, like
it was like – time-wise, like a few weeks since seem better, but then I don't know, like I have no experience in like the military side of things, but it's like to have to say like hi, bye, it's like, would it be easier just to be like, all right, take 2 months, take 3 months, like go, and then come back for a long time?
Well, yeah, I'm like, that's what, like, he was gonna fly out for the end of their deployment, but we didn't know if it was gonna be just like a couple weeks or a month or two, but we just knew that he was going. And then every single time, like one time the ship, there was like an issue with the ship, or not the ship, the issue with the plane. So I was like, all right, can't help that. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna do like a private flight. And then that flight got delayed like 4 times. And then we're like, okay. And then like, all right, but now we're going back to the military flight. And then after that, they're like, you know what? We'll see when we get back. And I was like, cool. After like having to take off days of work to be like, hey, I'm dropping my husband off
Right.
to deployment, and then taking Violet so he could say bye. And we're all teary eyed and
Uh,
sad. And then an hour or two later, it's like, hey, can you actually come pick me up? And I was like, I want to be like, leave so you can just leave and I can stop like crying every single time. But
yeah.
like,
I feel like I'd get to like I'm not even gonna cry. Like I'll probably see you in a minute. Like
well, I know, like the last time I was like, all right, like you're leaving for real this time. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I love you. Like, I'll let you know. And I make it everything. I'm like, okay, okay. And then he was like, yeah, they just said to just stay now. And I was like, because we thought he was going to miss his first Father's Day.
oh
And then I took him out for like this like fancy dinner with the baby and everything. And then he ended up being here for Father's Day. And I was like, I mean, like happy we spent the time with you, but also like, are you good to go?
right. Like and that was your Father's Day.
Yeah, well, that was. I'm not spending that, that money again. Absolutely not.
Where'd you
But
guys go?
went to, was it Captain George's? Because of like the
Oh, like the
seafood.
buffet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Captain
Because he's like,
George.
he's all about some like crab legs, and
Oh yeah.
that was a fun experience. And then we still ended up making like steaks and stuff for actual Father's Day because
You can't go wrong with a good steak.
you can't. And he loves a good steak. So,
Me too.
and Violet does too. She's tearing up some food.
I love that. I love watching them like explore new foods and
She's a foodie.
what's her favorite?
So it sounds weird, but like rice, but any type of rice. So
Okay.
like white rice. She likes fried rice, Spanish rice. We did like Mediterranean bowls, and we did like it's like a basil lemon rice.
Mm,
Tore it up. She that like potatoes, rice,
she'll go in.
any type of rice. That kid does not care. Loves some
What's
rice.
what's like the most unique or like something where you're like, I just gave it to her, didn't it like weird or
Bimbop.
what is
We,
bibimbap again?
it's like this I think it's like a traditional Japanese dish that we got from some sushi place with my parents. And it reminded me almost like fajitas because it came out on like a skillet, but it was like
Okay.
rice with like they crack like an egg, and it has like the sauce and meat and everything. And
Mm.
like she was tearing that up, like Mark was giving her bites of it, and she was just and I was like, yeah, yeah, we like that. And she's nom nom nom. I said, okay, all right. So anything, she loves to eat anything, except for she's worried about her pork, like pork chops. If it's even a little bit dry, she throws it to the dogs. She has
I don't blame the
standards.
girl,
She
right?
has
Like
some
I want
standards.
some juicy pork chops.
If it doesn't happen often, but when it does, she just throws it. And like
Dang.
she's our little critic. If she likes her food, she'll kick her legs and go, mmm. If she doesn't, she'll just throw it to the dogs and won't eat. And I'm like, hey, we worked
Ooh,
hard for that. And she's like,
she's gonna be an expensive date.
she already is. It's terrible. Like like you get yourself Chipotle, like, oh, you want like a little bit of Chipotle, and she'll like eat half my bowl, and I'm like, you were too little to be eating this much Chipotle.
That's how I feel about Josie. I'm like 11 months old and she eats like a grown man. Anything. Like we made breakfast and I'm like, okay, I'll get her seated first. I didn't even get to sit down and I looked at her plate, avocado, eggs, everything gone.
And then they like start reaching over to your
And
plate,
she's
and you're like,
screaming and I'm like, whew, okay, like here's mine. Like here's a little bit
yeah,
more.
I'm sick of feeding her my food because like, well,
And I think I make enough. That's the issue. Is like I think I make enough food. And then I clearly do not.
it's not that you're not making enough food; it's that they're just like, yeah, this is good. Let me get more of this. And I have to be like, hey, like I'm filling your tummy. I'm like, it's hard. Like
Yeah.
like we're all done. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm. And I'm like,
More. Give
more,
me more.
more,
Yeah.
or again. And I'm like,
Well,
mm-mm.
yeah, we haven't been doing that one
Well,
again.
yeah, because if she wants like more of like a toy we're doing, or like if we're so we call it trot trot. I don't know if you're like a Miss Rachel person, but
Trot, trot.
like
Mm.
it's trot trot up to Boston, trot trot to Lynn. So that little like we bounce in our lap. So instead of saying she wants more of that, she wants us to do it again.
Okay.
So because I just wanted to try to learn
Yeah.
like the correct verbiage for it, but
Mhm.
between that, but that more just she'll have her little pouchy and she'll finish it and go more, and I'm like, but it's all done. There's no more, and
Mhm.
she'll more, and I'm like, okay, well, I love that you're signing. I love that you're using your words.
Uh-huh.
There isn't any more.
Sorry,
I'm
done.
not gonna give you 2 or 3 pouches in a
Yeah,
row because
done.
all done. Dinner is in like 10 minutes. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
This will haunt my dreams. This more. I can't wait until she's bigger and I can be like, more? You
Uh-huh.
want more? And she'll be
Yeah.
like, stop, mom. I can't wait for that. But yeah, she's a more queen.
That's great though. But yeah, once they actually learn what it means, there's no going back.
There's not, and she uses it correctly. So and then I'm like, before I was like, all
You
right, like I
can't
need
not you
more,
can't
but
knock that.
and now she's like, well, I asked for more, and mom didn't give me more, and I'm like, I mean, to a degree, yes, you can have more, but like
Uh-huh.
you can't have 3 pouches. Like,
Right. Are there other signs that you guys do with her?
do more. We do again. I think this one is help. She's not really good at that one. I
Oh, okay.
think this is want. We do this is like food, and then this is like eat. So she does that. She's not really good at thirsty or like to like drink, but
Uh-huh.
she'll do this and like, do you want to eat or do you want to drink? Are you thirsty? And then she'll be like, thirsty. Like,
Mm,
okay.
okay, so she's starting to put words together and
Oh yeah, because if she can't do again, right? Because when she doesn't do this, she goes, and I know she means again, and I'm
uh-huh.
like again. She go again, again, or be like, thank you, to take two. It's just so cute because like I'm like, what are you saying? Her nickname is Bean, so we
Uh-huh.
call it Beananese, like just trying to
Vietnamese.
Beananese, trying to understand what she's saying. And I'm like, I think she's asking for goldfish. And then she's like, Pitu, and just
It
like,
there's
hey.
I had to take like all the videos because I know, and even through like Trip being 4 years old, like it's slowly going away, like the cuteness of the voice,
No,
And so
don't
I'm
have
like,
that.
I know. It's like, so I'm like, I keep recording because I like go back and like, because I still think he not sounds like a baby because he speaks very clearly, but I still feel like he has like the
Because it
innocence.
wasn't so long ago that he was a baby.
Right. But then I listened to an old video and I'm like, oh, it's going. Like it is fading. But then I'll have Josie to like,
Hmm.
you know, fill that baby voice. So on top of all that, you also are working full time, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And have you
unfortunately.
always worked full time throughout like the pregnancy and
Oh yeah.
throughout
Hmm.
her going and did you get 12? How long was your time off?
I think it was 10 weeks maternity leave, and I took like an extra. I had to take a week before and then a week, or maybe it was 12 weeks, but I actually got 11 because I had to take a week before because I had to be on like bed rest for like that last week. My blood pressure was insane right before I went into, or went through my induction.
Okay. And had you had any like blood pressure issues
I mean, I
before?
had blood pressure issues prior to being pregnant. It was actually really controlled up until that, like, I think right when I hit 35, 36 weeks, that's when it started going crazy. But that's also when, like, standing up would make me winded. So,
Mm-hmm.
just moving around in general, like a shower, I'm like, whew.
Whoa, yeah.
So,
Well, I literally just recorded with a mom who like had some serious blood pressure stuff going on, and even before, like, kind of had
yeah.
gotten diagnosed like pretty early, like in her 20s, and had been on
Hmm.
medication, and so like her story was like pretty powerful, but like that had significant impacts, throughout her
Oh,
pregnancy,
yeah.
and um, having to try to like monitor that. Now, were you on like medications, or
Yeah, I
were
was on
you?
medication. So prior to pregnancy, on medications, and then you have to switch the medications once you're pregnant
That's
because
what she
it's
was saying. Yep.
because what I was on caused birth defects, which obviously I don't know. Then I would have probably done more due diligence to make sure I was on something safer. When we were like, oh, like we're gonna try, it was like Mark was like stationed overseas,
Hmm.
and I was coming to visit him for 3 weeks, and we're like, hey, if it happens, it happens. And I personally thought that we were gonna have some issues trying to conceive, and literally like the night I got there, and I was like, I mean, like literally before I like got there on June 4th, and I left on June 21st, I think, something like that,
Mhm.
and I had a positive pregnancy test.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Why
that
did
was
you think that you were gonna have issues?
well, because I'm also a diabetic, so that can sometimes with like my weight, that can sometimes affect your fertility. So I thought
Mhm.
that that was just going to be a thing for us, and I was working out and working towards getting to where I wanted to be
Sure.
to try to have a child.
Yeah.
And apparently, we were super blessed super quickly. So I had to like change all my medications. Like I had to like call my doctor while I was still in Bahrain to be like, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and we had to go through all the testing. They had to switch my medications over, and then being a diabetic, I had to go from the medications I was on to insulin, and that was a whole new vibe for me because I was never like an insulin dependent diabetic, but
Mhm.
for pregnancy, so I had like the two major factors was having high blood pressure and being a diabetic. And both of them, like, so I think high blood pressure can make your babies smaller, and then being a diabetic can make your babies bigger. So I was like, well, maybe it
Happy
kind of
meeting
cancel each other
you.
out. And they're like, it depends on which one, like, overtakes, but I ended up
Uh,
being pretty controlled throughout the entire thing, and, like, shout out to, like, my doctor and the whole team there to, like, make sure that everything was super good. My blood pressures were really good up until that like I said, the last week, and my blood sugars were, like, the best they'd ever been for
that's awesome.
yeah,
Now,
so
did you, like, monitor your diet at all, or were you kinda eating, like,
oh,
normal?
no, I was counting carbs, and I
Wow.
had an insulin pump, which was completely new to me. Like,
Mhm.
and I felt like my own little medical team. I had to, insert the pump and learn how to get the insulin through it and counting my carbs and converting those ratios. Math is not my strong suit, so but I
That's
did it.
time consuming.
It is, and it was like every 3 days I had to switch my pump out, and like I couldn't swim unless I like took like a special little like plug to put into it. Like I could
Mhm.
shower fine, but they're like things that I had to like be like aware of
Yeah.
I couldn't go through the normal, like, I had to fly at one point when I was pregnant, and I couldn't go through the normal, metal detector, when you put your arms up,
Yep.
because I have a medical device, because
Okay.
that could interfere with it, so I had to do, like, the actual hand one, just things you don't think of that would actually, like, impact, like, just things you do in your life,
Right.
but, I mean, I'm thankful for everything being controlled because what we thought was gonna be a super high risk and super complicated pregnancy honestly, for the most part, was pretty normal aside from just making sure those numbers were good.
Mhm.
So and I didn't have to do that nasty, like, glucose drink because they were like, "You're gonna fail anyway," so I was like, "Hey!" So, like, I didn't I didn't have to experience that at all. So I was like, "Well, it's, like, the one positive out of that."
They were
So
like, "You're already gonna fail, but we're gonna move you, like,
yeah, yeah,
push you
you
ahead."
oh, yeah, they're like, "We can't call it, like, was it gestational because you had it prior, so, like,
So
it's
what
not
did
gonna just go away."
they just kind of
They just kept me on, like, metformin, something you can take safely while you're pregnant, and then insulin, and just kept it moving.
okay. So then afterwards, did you do, like, another switch back, or did you have to keep staying on the insulin?
So, because you're on it for such a long time, you have to kind of like wean yourself off of it so your body starts producing like enough insulin, like
Mhm.
on its own because it was, dependent on that.
Yeah.
So, switched off of that. I couldn't even go back on like my normal meds until I finished breastfeeding because those can also
Yeah.
transfer through for
How
breast
long did
milk.
you breastfeed?
Up until 8 months.
Okay. Gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because she wouldn't latch at all. So we had an interesting experience. So she, ended up in the special care unit for a little bit. I didn't realize it. I guess we call it when you have sugar babies, that's what they call them, sugar babies. Because
And what does that mean? Like,
just like because I'm a diabetic, so they call them like sweeter sugar babies.
oh, okay.
Because I was already always having like insulin pushed through me, obviously some of that went to her.
Mhm.
So for her, her blood sugars were really, really low. And that's just because her body was just so used to that insulin and the sugars from me. So she was there for a couple days. So it was really hard to be able to like get her because she was hooked up to a monitor on like a glucose drip and
Mhm.
to be able to get her to latch initially. So I still wanted to have a breastfeeding journey. So I just started pumping and that's what I did around the clock for almost 8 months.
Yeah.
I think she latched 3 times during that whole time period. Each time she'd, like, look up at me, smile, I'd be like, "Oh, you're doing it," and I'd be so excited, and then she'd be like and like spit it out. I'm like, what are you doing? Like we're doing it. This is what it is. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, I'll take my bottle now.
I don't need to work for this. You've already shown me what this is.
I was like, she did it just to show me she could, and then
Yeah.
refused to do it again.
That's frustrating. I mean, I know the feeling. I'm on my weaning journey of a year. So
Yeah, congrats.
it's like, it's work. It's like and I was very schedule oriented. Like, I don't know if you gave yourself like a schedule, but like I got fixated on it. So it was like every time that like I should have been feeding because then she went to daycare. And
Hmm.
then it's like, that's miserable, right? Like, you're just like, all right, well, I'm sitting here pumping. Baby's not even like here.
Yep.
But like, you have to do it because you got to feed him later.
Yep.
But it's not the bond and the joy
It's not.
like,
I remember glaring at Mark at 3 a.m. because like he's sleeping, and that's when she started sleeping through the night, so she was sleeping, but I still had to do like the middle of the night pump, and I'm just sitting there glaring at both of them, like nipples, yeah, nipples angry, and I'm just like, I'm doing this because I love her. I'm doing this because I love her, and like obviously I do. I love my daughter,
yeah,
but I would prefer to sleep, But
100%.
you miss that middle of the night pump, and your supply just. Pew.
Yep. Yeah. I got to a spot where I like could get away from the middle pump or the middle of the night pump because like once she started sleeping through, I was like, okay. So I weaned myself off of that, but then I did drop a little bit, and so I kept, even though she wasn't doing a even like a dream feed anymore, like up until like 2 weeks ago, I still was doing a 10 p.m. pump
Hmm.
because I needed that extra like 4 ounces for the next day.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I just want to go to bed. So it's like, even though she would be sleeping from like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. like an angel,
Hmm.
I'm still staying up till 10 o'clock and have to clean the parts and do all this
Oh
stuff.
my
And
god,
I'm
clean
like,
the Mark is a godsend because he would clean the pump parts. Like every
go,
night before bed,
Mark.
Mark would clean the pump parts, and I'd be like, bless you.
Yes.
Because that in itself, like pumping is already a job, but cleaning those parts.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't even know you're supposed to be sanitizing them every so often.
Girl, second child, I put those things in the fridge.
Yeah, yeah, I was already doing that. I was like, all right, fridge, because I'm gonna see her
Yep.
again in 2 hours.
I
So
did like the whole controversial of like cold milk into warm milk. I had a jug.
yeah, yeah.
First kid, I probably would have been like, oh, I don't know. Second kid, I was like, this works. She's fine. I
After a couple
loved my
weeks,
milk jug. And
just
then, yeah, after I pumped, I put it in a bag and yeah, I didn't sanitize in between. I was like, that's fine. And then at the end of the day,
it's like what? Because I
and
get TikToks like sanitize in between. I'm like,
I had hot water and milk, or hot water and soap at the end of the day. She was just fine.
yeah, because I mean, like, sanitizing in between, I'm also soap and water, and then I was buying, like, in between those, like, the wipes that you, like, wipe down in
Oh,
between, like, I was using those, like,
so
at
look,
work.
you did even better than I did.
Because at work, I didn't wanna just be, like, sitting there. Because like, that's the one thing about my job was cool, is they had, like, a nursing mom's room, which is really comfortable, little fridge there, and you can only get in there, like, badge swipe.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you didn't have um,
Like
the
lactation
authorization,
or, oh, okay.
you could not get in there. So I felt
Good.
really comfortable leaving my pump parts in there so I could
Mhm.
twice a day go in there and then wipe it out.
Yeah.
Say
Where do you
hello.
work?
USAA.
Okay.
So that was really nice that they were super. I mean, like from day one, I was like, hey, like I have to pop the, oh, here's a nursing mother's room, and we'll make sure we get you access, and you let us know. And we want to make sure you keep your milk supply up. So anything you need. And I was like,
Okay, USAA.
I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, thank you." And like it was like nice comfy couch and everything. Because I know some places are just like, here's like a room and it's like very sterile and cold, but like it was like nice and comfy. And I was like, oh, and
That's beautiful.
I
Did you
ended up
know that it was there before?
no, because I thought I was gonna be in like the handicap stall of like the bathroom, just like
Oh,
hoping someone wasn't taking a dump next to me while I'm pumping. And they're like, "Oh, no, no, no. We have like a whole area for you, and no one else can get in here except for other moms that are nursing. And like security will check, like, but they will knock to make sure you are covered. Or if you're in there, they will just not come in at all." And I'm like, that makes me feel good. Like, one, to know that
yeah.
security's checking to make sure that we're safe, but two, like, no one else has access unless they are also pumping.
Yeah. How progressive of them.
Yeah,
That's great.
that was,
Because
I,
I look, I get pissed off when I go in a restaurant and there's not a changing table.
oh my God, that's my pet peeve. Or like, not only that, if there's not one in like the men's restroom either, because
Correct.
what if I'm enjoying my food at this point and like, oh, she needs to get changed, so I have to stop eating to go change her? Like, she has 2 parents.
Mhm.
And Mark is, like, really good about, like, going and changing her, but he's like, "Oh, like, there's nothing in here for me to even, like, feel comfortable."
Yeah.
And he's like, like, the sink is gross." And I'm like,
I immediately am like, "Oh, a mom did not design this."
"I won't go back."
Yeah. It's
Like,
like
I've
so
been to some nice restaurants, and I'm like, "You're a nice restaurant, like, you have high chairs."
if you have a high chair, you advertise as kid friendly, you better have.
Yeah, because at that point, it's a lie that you are family friendly because 'cause you're not then.
Mhm.
Or you only wanna, like, have, like, high chairs for kids who aren't in
I don't wanna have to
diapers.
go to my car and change them in the trunk, or I don't like, I remember I was on vacation. I had, like, already kinda started no. Oh, he had a blowout, that's what it was.
Mm,
Oh god, it was, like, the worst I'd ever seen, and so I'm, like, in there, and there was nothing, and I ended up having to, like, put him on the floor because I'm, like, now messy, and I was like,
yeah,
"This is awful, and this is disgusting." It was, like, a bar, Mexican restaurant,
yep.
and I, like, came out just, like, on fire, and I'm like,
Oh,
"This is ridiculous."
that happened to me when Violet was, I wanna say 2 months old, and, like, my in-law, my father-in-law was down, so we're going out to, like, a nice restaurant, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna go take her to change her," and I go in there, and there's, like, no area, but I'm like, I can feel her diapers, like, I know something's going on. Full on blowout, so I'm changing her on the sink, like, I have a little, like, pad out, and she's looking at me like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I know you're new to this, I'm new to this." And then I'm like, I got, like, poop on me, like, her and that was a point where, like, she could wear, like, those cute outfits, but then all I had left was, like, a little, like, a zipper up onesie, so it's like, I was like, "I guess this is what you're going in now, kiddo, like, I'm so sorry." Some poor woman, like, walked in, she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm making it." She's like, "Okay." And she's like, "Well, can I get by to the sink?" And I'm like, "You I'm using the sink."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, I want you to like, wash your hands and be clean, but also, like, I'm dealing with some poop here, so, like,
Do you see what's going on right
you see
now?
this? You see this diaper,
She
ma'am?
was trying to small talk to, like, get in.
To just, let me just, so you gonna wash your hands right next to my baby, like, I mean, granted, if they would have had a changing table,
Right.
this wouldn't have happened. This woman could have washed her hands comfortably and not been staring at my baby's poopy butt, and I wouldn't have
Mhm.
been mortified to be covered in poop and also my baby.
Yeah. Now are you one to leave a review?
No, because I like work in customer service so much, and I just don't want to be
Mm,
that person.
I know. I go back and forth. I rarely leave reviews unless, like, I'm, like,
If you
livid.
advertise that you were a big, like, family friendly type of place, then like, yeah, I probably would.
Yeah.
This place didn't necessarily advertise that, and they had like, it was like a decent sized restaurant. They only had like 2 high chairs. They were just kind of like, in case a kid shows up. Here's a high. Like, they didn't have a kids menu,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
they had like 2 high chairs for like a just in case type of thing.
I think the only time kid-wise that I've left a review recently professionally because I was angry.
Oh no,
But, um, it was at a park,
a park?
and there was not one at the park in the restrooms, and I'm like, "This is a."
It's a park.
So, I had to go to my steamy hot car and change them, and I wasn't happy, and I was like, "This is my local park." So, I like
What are my tax dollars going to if you're gonna like this is
there was, like, ups and downs of, like, "Well, people can go in there and use drugs on them and do this and do that," and I'm like, "Then bump up the security, like, just make sure that there's not people doing drugs in the bathroom." Like, you lock them when sun goes down, you unlock them when sun comes up, like, I feel like if that's the reason we don't have changing tables, like, they could snort coke on the
the
slide,
bench.
the bench. There's benches.
Also, like, we do have, like, an issue with, like, homelessness and, like, if, people need jobs, there could be someone in there to, like, check it on the bathroom more often to make sure it's clean, to make sure people aren't
Right. I work in
doing
the
drugs.
employment industry, I can get people some jobs,
I
so
would
this.
piss me off so much to go to a park and try to change my kid and be like, and that's the other thing. I feel like nowadays more moms are like, "Ooh, those changing tables are gross." So, like, everyone has, like Lysol wipes or whatever, those like changing mats because
Mhm.
I'm not putting my baby bare on one of those changing tables anyway. So like, not to be like, oh, there's cocaine on there, my baby's not gonna touch it, but like,
Give a little wipe
it's
down.
getting wiped down, just Lysol. There's her own little mat that's just for Violet's tush because she's that type of baby. Like, I'm not worried about. I mean, I am worried about the drugs, but also like she's not touching.
Yeah.
Also, moms are looking. We're looking. We're making sure there's
Yeah,
nothing. If it's crusty, I'm not using it.
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a little clean. I'm gonna
Or like some of the places have like little like disposable ones that you can put down.
Yeah, that's
Like I'll do
nice.
that down and then I'll put my actual mat on top because I'm still not
Mhm.
going to touch that one.
Yeah.
So I'm not a germaphobe, but also I don't trust those things completely. 'Cause,
I know. I definitely err on the side of like, I wouldn't say like less caution, but I guess I'm like, build up the immune system. Like I'm like a, so I do kind of err on the, I'm like in the middle. Like obviously if it's dirty out, I'm gonna clean it. But I'm like,
mm,
we'll be all right. So look, there has
I
to be,
wish I could. This kid gives me an illness every other week. Every other week. I've gotten pink
that's
eye
tough.
twice. I like twice as an adult. I've had pink eye within like a 6 month time frame. And
So pink eye, has she, I think I told you, Josie just got over hand, foot, and mouth.
so
Have you
she doesn't
guys,
have that, but then
okay. Whew,
as soon as we talked
not
about it, yeah, right. As soon as we
the,
talked about it, I went to her daycare, and one of the doors had a "uh-oh, we had," and I said no, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it. That was like 3 days ago," and I was like, "I had no idea that this occurred 3 days ago."
right, where was that 3 days ago? Where was this?
She was still here, and she'll she's so funny. She'll sometimes like when they open the door because she's like in the infant room, but she needs to be in the toddler room. But she's finally walking consistently. But sometimes they'll open the door and she'll just take off into the really big kid room and just run into there and play with those kids. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" That happened to be the room that had the.
No.
I said, of course, you would run into that room to play when one of the kids had hand, foot, and mouth.
Yeah, and I was telling another mom, like, I feel like Josie's getting everything that Trip didn't have. So, like, when you
Mm.
think that you know what something is, or like it looks like this, I'm like, what is this? Like ear infection. First time, Josie, hand, foot, and mouth. Luckily, like she took like a champ. I'm like, oh. So, like, what are some of the things that Violet's gotten? Just
I think they said
cold,
she looked like when we took her to the pediatrician when they called like slap cheek syndrome,
slap cheek.
where like yeah, their cheeks look like they've been like slapped. It's called
Uh-huh.
like fist disease,
Oh,
which is apparently like really common. And like I guess by the time you can see their cheeks like that, it's like mostly done with. But I thought she was teething because she was like pulling on her ear. Sometimes they do that when they're teething, and she's
mm-hmm.
the kids put their fingers in their mouth. No, apparently it was that. And I was like, oh, well, it's a good thing I was giving her some Tylenol because I thought her teeth were really. But no, just me, unbeknownst to me, just fighting whatever little fever she had and didn't even realize it. And then we both got the flu. Because every time I try to go get my flu shot, because I'm not the type of person to get my flu shot. I'm just not like I get my COVID shot. I don't get my flu shot just because I already have so many things going on. But then they're like, you have so many things going on, you should probably get it. So now that no, I was telling you before, like I have MS.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to make sure I get all my vaccines because I'm starting meds that are gonna like suppress my immune system, which is really hard when you have a toddler because all they do is bring in
Mm-hmm.
another cold, some
And you get
sniffles,
a sickness, and you get
and Mark never gets it, but I do. Oh my God. I'm like, come here, give me a kiss. And he's like, no, you're sick. And I'm like, come here, I just need you to be sick too. But so like we both got the flu. Mark, of course, didn't get the flu. And I think it was like type A flu or something, which is worse for adults, but kids are apparently like A-okay. So she had a fever for like 24 hours. It broke and she was just laughing, giggling like nothing happened. And I was down for the count for like a week.
oh
And I was just like, like
yeah, like chills and everything.
and I was still working because I mean I could work from home, and people are like, oh, you should be calling, and I'm like, first of all, you can't get my germs because I'm on the phone,
Yeah,
and if I'm gonna be home sick, I'm gonna make some money too. Like this kid's in daycare,
right,
right?
right.
But yeah, that was
I'm not taking my
crazy.
vacation here in my bed, sick.
No, no. But yeah, she's just every time bringing home something different, and now I got to like we Lysol her shoes when she gets home. She sanitizes her hands, and then she can run throughout the house and do whatever she wants because I'm safe with the germs in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever she's bringing home from daycare, it's knocking me out.
That's tough.
What are these kids doing?
I'm like, what? It's probably me. It's probably my kids are like, just go. You guys are running, eating dirt.
I'm like,
You're
these are
fine.
not the germs from when I was younger.
I
Because these
know.
are kicking my butt.
And I have noticed, and I wonder, like, I typically have been the person where, like, I never get sick. But this last year, I feel like it's more like congestion and like just fatigue, those things that I feel like had like hanging around for like weeks. Which then
Hmm.
I'm like, man, like I cannot get with it. Like to try to like work out and to do all these things, it's like throwing me off my routine. But like I wonder too, like with the hormones, like breastfeeding and all that, like is that suppressing my immune system? Like, will I see a difference when I like actually stop breastfeeding? I'm
I
like,
think
I don't.
it boosts your immune system,
Oh,
from what
really?
I was told, because Violet wasn't sick at all until I stopped. And
Well,
like
I
if
know
she
for
got,
them,
but your
but
body
my
is also like
okay.
it's fighting more things off too. Because if they get sick, you're
Then
supposed to also
I'm.
be you're producing more like white blood cells to take care of whatever they're exposed
I
to, not
know.
only in your milk but for yourself.
It's such
So you're not
magic.
as you might be more tired because your body's working harder to take care of you and Josie,
This is true. That's a good point.
which is crazy because I'm sitting here like now that I'm not like breastfeeding, I'm like, man, I really miss how you were never sick, and that I was rarely sick because as soon as I stopped breastfeeding her, that's when I got pink eye the first time.
Did you have any milk? Just the
I did have milk, but I was like, oh, we're done, and I'm trying to stretch this as long as I can. So I was
can't
like,
waste it on the pink eye.
no. Now I'm sitting there like Mark has he has psoriasis, and so I would like sit there and be like, come here, like, and he'd be like, stop, don't waste it, it's for her. And I'm like, but it's supposed to help. Come here. And he hated that. I just like just all of a sudden whip one out and spray him, and obviously it wasn't just shooting milk out my tatas, wasting it like that, but every once in a
Sometimes
while.
well, it's a little squirt here or there. It's fine. I would do that in the shower, like turn around, like gotcha. He's like, what the hell?
It's so funny. Oh my god. I can never put in his his coffee because he likes his coffee black.
Mm. He'd
So
be like, what is this shade? I can
he'd
tell.
know. But like if he got sick, because Mark never gets sick. If he got sick, I'd be like, do you want some milk? He'd be like, no, that's for the baby. And I'm like, you sure?
Yeah.
I won't tell anyone.
I made dinner tonight and it was a little creamy tomato soup.
No, I wouldn't put it in his food without him knowing, but I thought about it plenty of times. Like,
I
you
said,
sure?
yeah, yeah.
No, no, no. It's like it's pretty normal for like dads to try a little bit of the milk. He's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, it it
Like the
is.
fitness industry, like people will buy.
I wish I made enough milk to be able to sell it because I wouldn't be working right now. Like
Dude,
that'd be
I
a full
know.
time job. I would
Right.
still be trying to pump.
Right. I was doing the full-time job and not getting paid. If I
Yeah,
could
they
get
pay for
paid,
per ounce.
liquid gold,
Literally.
straight liquid gold. So you had mentioned that you had MS. When did
Mhm.
you find out?
I found out
How old were
it
you?
was Violet's a year and a half, so 2 years ago. I found out the May before I went to Bahrain, and they're like, I had like a terrible experience. My doctor was like, "Well, you have to choose if you want to have kids or if you want to start medication." And I was like, "Wow, all right, well, 32. Uh, I mean, I got to talk to my husband and figure out my life." So we were going to talk about all of that while I was out there and figure out what we
Mm-hmm.
were going to do. And then I ended up pregnant. So that was kind of decided for us.
Was it because you couldn't be on any medications?
The A lot of the medications, so not all of them. There's some that are safe to take while you're pregnant, but a lot of the newer ones that are what's like they're better, but just like the better benefits or whatever, have extreme birth defects.
Mm.
Um like born without kidneys type of like birth defects. And so I didn't want to risk anything like that, already being like high risk. Thankfully, from what I've learned, being pregnant for a lot of people who have like women who have MS, like pregnancy kind of protects your body. So I didn't have any like flare ups or issues while I was pregnant, as far as like my MS goes. And through breastfeeding, for the most part, I was actually pretty good. It was like as soon as I stopped breastfeeding, that everything came right back. So
Wow.
that wasn't fun, but like it's part of my life now, something I just like navigate with being a mom and working full time and being a wife and trying to get on medications to, you know, keep it at bay as much as I
Mm.
can.
Were there symptoms? Like, how did, like, what kind of brought you to the doctor to like,
Oh, my husband, because I was like, so I started getting migraines like randomly. I'd never had migraines before. And it was to the point where like I went like to the ER, like it was so bad, like I was feeling like faint and everything. And then we got married and I was talking about it, and Mark was like, well, yeah, Tricare. And I was like, well, yeah, but like I'm sure it's fine. He's like, no, like go check and make sure if it's, he's like, I don't want you to have like a brain tumor and you've been putting it off. And I was like,
right? Oh, sun stage
yeah.
3,
So
4. Mm.
then I went and got my first MRI from a neurologist, and they called me and they're like, yeah, you have like lesions in your brain. And I was like, excuse me? And they're like, yeah, it's like consistent with like multiple sclerosis, but we're not sure. So like we're gonna have to do some more testing. And I was like, and like when you hear that name, you're like, oh my God, this is something detrimental, like I'm gonna die. And so like I was freaking out. Like Mark was overseas at this point, so he had
Oh
just
no.
left. So like I was handling this. Obviously like my parents were close, but trying to like navigate that and going through the diagnosis. I had to do like a couple more MRIs. I had to get a spinal tap. That was
Painful.
horrendous. Oh my God. I don't know which one I hated more, like an epidural or a spinal tap, because they both sucked.
See, I think I was in so much pain with my contractions that I didn't like. I didn't really feel my epidural.
Oh no, I felt the nerve pain. I got stuck like
Yikes.
3 times before they got it.
No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is like the same thing when they were doing my spinal tap, and they were like, "Oh, it's like," and with the spinal tap, they like do an X-ray to like see everything, and
Yeah.
then and they still had to stick me a few times. It was not great, but going through all that, and then they were like, "Yep, you have it," and then the month later, I got pregnant. So, and now I'm just trying to navigate through figuring that out.
So what is how does that show up like in your life?
So I deal with chronic fatigue, which is like hard because like all moms are tired. Like we are all tired. But for me, when it gets really bad, it's like newborn fatigue. Like that's the way I like describe it. Like on those like your baby is waking up every 2 hours type of fatigue that you feel.
Mhm.
That's how I feel all the time. Sometimes I have nerve pain, whether it'll be like shooting pains down my leg or like my arm. Um, Sometimes I get terrible like TMJ,
Oh,
where like my face will just hurt. Sometimes you'll get what they call like an MS hug, which just feels like something's like tight, like wrapped around like this area of you, like that, or like around like your head.
that doesn't sound like a good
It,
hug.
it is not a good
Oh,
hug.
I don't know if I like that or like,
It's not, yeah. So that, and then it's hard. It's mainly for me. It's like the fatigue or like the pain, because like your kid like wants to be like all over you and love you and snuggle you, and sometimes I'm like, whew, mommy is
mhm,
tired. And like Mark definitely picks up the slack on those days, but I also don't want to like spend her childhood on the couch tired. So that's why I'm really like trying to advocate to get on like the better medications that are gonna, you know, give me a better chance to not like deteriorate and whatnot, so I can be
mhm.
present. And I don't want her to have like I won't say a couch mom, but like I want
Well,
to be
she
able to.
definitely doesn't have a couch mom. You
She
just
doesn't.
ran, was it the Tough Mudder or the Muddy
The
Run?
Muddy Princess, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Muddy Princess. Like, you're out there killing it.
Yeah, well, I do that to remind myself that like even though like um sometimes I resent my body. I feel like a lot of moms do, but I resent my body for one, the MS, two, just it doesn't always look the way I want it to. Things are still different from pregnancy, and doing things like that reminds me that like my body can do great things. Like obviously I've given birth, which is an amazing thing, but
Yeah.
being able to climb yourself over like, a four tire swing or whatever, or
Mhm. It's
you know,
empowering.
it is, and I'm like, "Hey, like, even though, like, my body has its shortcomings, like, it gets me from point A to point B, I can pull my body weight over some giant, obstacle." Like, that's
Yeah.
a way for me to, like, reconnect with my body and praise myself. Like, "Hey, like, yeah, I'm mad at you sometimes, but, like, you are also doing a really good job. Like, you are more than what I see you for sometimes." If that
Mhm.
makes sense? Like, just
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we have to go easy on our bodies, even like, like it kind of ebbs and flows, but like that's a great way to kind of look at it where it's like, you remind yourself. And I think being able to do those things, even if you are, doing fitness all the time, like sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm doing these, it feels like your norm. And I'm like, and you're still hard on yourself. Like I
Mhm.
know I still am, even though like I get compliments all the time. Like people are like, you don't even look like you have a baby, which like can feel like a compliment, but then it's also like,
But you can see it. Like
oh,
you
I
know the
feel
changes
it.
that your
You
body's
know,
gone
it's like,
through.
yes, I have always been like petite and small, but like I did not feel like that. Like, I mean, to do a sit up, to do something, it was like, I mean, my core was so weak, or to do things. And so it's like, thank you for seeing me in that lens, but it's also like, I know I'm not where I want to be. And so
Mhm.
it's like, even, and again, like it's just that pressure of you see something else. So you see other moms and it's like they're doing triathlons. And I'm like, shit, I need to get there. But it's like
Yeah.
kudos, like good for you. Like, you to be proud for ourselves and what our bodies can do is amazing. So did you train at all when
Mm-mm.
you just jumped into it?
So like I this I think it's like that was like my third one that I had done, but I'd also in March I did the rock and roll half marathon in DC.
Oh,
So I'd
nice.
already I'd half trained for that. It wasn't great training. Because
Dang.
like I kept every time I would like really get in my training, I'd get sick and I'd be like on the couch and
Uh-huh.
then I'd try to get back into it. So
A half marathon, that's 13 and a half. Right?
13.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my fifth half marathon. Yeah, yeah, and I know your girl doesn't look like she does half marathons, but yeah,
Hey,
just a
but
couple of
like
those. But
you remind yourself what your body
and
can
that's what
do.
I have to do constantly. It's like even though I don't have that like typical body type, like I mean I'm 6'2", I'm plus size, but try to remind myself that even though like I don't look like models on the magazines or whatever, like my body is still capable of doing great things, you
Yeah,
know. So
definitely.
I try to every so often set that as like a goal to like, all right, I'm gonna do this race so that I can push myself to do something to remind myself that I'm not just mom, I'm not just,
Mhm.
this person working, like I'm also like a human being who can, do some cool stuff.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you were trying to kinda, like, seek out some other medications to,
Mhm.
like, transition to like, you said they're just better, like, what, I guess, is the better piece of it? Like, what would
So
that look like?
So the medication I'm like looking into right now, like with my doctor, because I'm trying to get authorization. Anyone from Tricare is watching, please authorize my medications. um,
Little plug there.
hey, so basically from that one, so I had like kind of like three options because I don't want to. I'm already like I told you, I'm already on like blood pressure medications on it and stuff for my diabetes, and I'm working really, really hard to get those things like to get off those meds, but I don't want to add more pills. So my options were injections, doing what they call infusions, which I was like, oh, okay, like that doesn't sound bad. But then my doctor told me it could be like, yeah, like, like every 6 months, but you'll go to a place and sit there for like 8 hours. And I'm like,
8 hours.
I don't know if I got 8 hours. Just,
That's a
just
whole workday.
it's a whole work day. And then with that, you get reactions from having the infusions. So they give you what they call prednisone, which helps with like the inflammation, like you get like a really flushed. Um, but I'm a diabetic, and prednisone increases your blood sugar. So then I'd have to also be on some type of insulin drip for that, and that could potentially be like a day in the hospital
Mhm.
for me. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So then there's these pills that I want to take where you basically take them for like 2 weeks, and then you're good for I think it's either 6 months to a year, and then you take them again for like 2 weeks, and then after that we just kind of do MRIs to see if there's any progression. For
Mhm.
some people, they didn't see progression for like a couple years.
Oh, well.
So, but then, like, you don't go back on the meds again until you see some type of progression, or if you do, and
Mhm.
that seemed more long term. The only issue is that you can't try for kids, and I want another one. You can't try again for at least, I think it's 6 months to a year after the second year.
Okay. So is that then creating conversation at home on
Mark
when?
doesn't want another baby. He not
Oh,
that he doesn't want another baby. He was so traumatized throughout my like birth induction process that he doesn't want to see me go through that again.
let's dive into that. Oh, this sounds juicy.
So, like, I wouldn't call it juicy, like, I feel like I handle it pretty well, but I, like, hold the record now at the hospital for, like, the longest, like, induction. I went on a Monday at 5:50 and had Violet on Friday at 7:55.
We're talking like 5 days.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we got there and immediately, like, how they, like, do the monitor and check to make sure baby's okay, and then,
Was this on your due date?
No, they induce you early when you have high blood pressure and diabetes. There's like a high risk of having issues with like the placenta kind of like failing towards the end. So that's why
Okay.
they do that early.
So 38, 37.
I think it was 37 and like 6 days on like the first day of induction.
Okay.
So I think, and technically she would have been on like 38 and like 4 days or something, technically when we had her. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I went through every method of induction that they offered. I did the pills they give you.
The cytotech,
Yeah, I did the pills. I also did
balloon.
I did the balloon. I also did I call it the demon tampon, which I think is also like cytotech or one of those that they insert in as well. They
Painful, or why do you call it the devil?
It was so painful. It felt like it was like a barbed tampon.
Ow.
I didn't like that at all, and they were like, "We are so sorry." And I was like, "Hey." I mean, like
They didn't warn you?
they told me that it was gonna feel uncomfortable. So between that and then so they would give me those like in the morning, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would spend the night or like the afternoon to like the morning on Pitocin on like a low dose to try to keep things going. When I got there, um, I was not dilated at all. I was zero effaced. Like this baby was not ready to come out at all.
Which I think is always tough when then now they're trying to force your body to be ready.
She was just not ready. It wasn't until, and mind you, like we're not really eating because also we don't know when this is gonna like kick in.
Hmm.
Um,
Did they give you any option, like when you came in and they're like your clothes closed and like you maybe weren't at risk at that point, like of even saying like, let's try next week?
so we were going to do that, and then that Wednesday, my blood pressure shot up, and it was in a danger zone where they didn't feel safe
Got it.
sending me home. So if it had been like that Tuesday, I'd be like, yeah, let me just go home. I'll try again next week. They'd have been a-okay with it. But because we were, so then that Wednesday we did another thing. That didn't work. I want to say that yeah, it was a Wednesday night. My doctor came in and stripped my membrane. That was not a great experience. And they're like, "You're doing great." I'm like, "Am I?" Because like every like 6 hours, one of y'all's coming in wrist deep in my hoo-ha, checking me to see where I'm at, or
Hmm.
shoving something new inside of me. And Mark is just sitting there, just holding my hand and like, "You're doing great, babe. You're doing great." And I'm just like, "Stop telling me I'm doing great. Like nothing's
Hmm.
happening," and I'm just feel like I'm being tortured. Meanwhile, Violet's just sitting there, just
Snug as a
chilling, just
bug.
snug as a bug, has no idea that she is
And then
been.
did Mark take off work? Like each time, was he just like, I just need a work
So it
a
was
week off?
crazy. So Mark was actually in one of his C schools. And so he was supposed to be going to school every day. And they thought, like, all right, hey, we'll give you like, 2 or 3 days because that's what we thought it would take. And then at one point, like that Wednesday, he had to actually leave to go check in. And they were like, well, if nothing's happening, you need to come in on Thursday. And he was like, I will. He was not pleased with that. So that I think it was that Wednesday night. After I want to say about 3 or 4 hours after they stripped my membrane, my water broke, and I had no idea because like you see like with TV, like it's
I
like
know it's not.
it's not at all. So like I had just showered and I got out of the shower and I was like getting all cleaned up and I stood up and I was like, oh, I think I peed myself.
Right.
And then I was like sitting on the bed, I was like, man, it really feels like something's trying to like come out. And like the nurse was like, well, just relax. And it just went whoosh. And I was like, oh, I think that's my water. And so they like tested it and they're like, yeah, like your water broke. And I was like, oh, things are happening. Like I was really excited.
Baby's better be here, right?
Yeah. And so the other funny thing is like my mom worked at the hospital.
That one.
Yeah, she worked at that hospital. She's a midwife. So everyone was like,
Perfect.
oh, you're Miss Karen's daughter. And I was like, yeah, that's like weird that my mom's coworkers are all like, wrist deep, checking my cervix.
Your daughter's doing great.
Yeah, pretty much. So we called my mom was like, oh, like I'm doing like a early morning shift that Thursday. So my mom was actually working. So that Wednesday at night, I was like, hey, mom, my water broke. She was there like every day up in that because we thought it'd be done by Wednesday.
Hmm.
So then she like ended up coming in and they put me on like the full blast of Pitocin at that point. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there on the ball. I'm doing my little like hip circles, right? And like groaning. And there's Mark just snoring. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I was getting ready to like get up to go like beat
Throw the
him.
ball at him.
Yes, because how are you sleeping while I'm like going through like these Pitocin contractions, which were terrible. Like I thought they were like they weren't great before, but like
Mhm.
when they ramped that up, oh my God.
I've heard.
So then he's sleeping. My mom's like, "Oh, this is just a new dad thing. Like once things start to happen, dad will fall asleep, and then right before like everything like birth actually happens, that's when they wake up and they're really there." And I'm like, that's him. No, he needs.
I'm really here right
I'm
now.
I'm I'm awake right now doing this. So that was. So then I was like, I didn't want an epidural just because I was so traumatized from my spinal tap. I know they're not like the same, but I just anything
You
going into my
compared
my
it.
back like so I was like, they were like, oh, we can give you like, a pain med. And I was like, all right, let's try that. Then I start tripping.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was great, but
What'd you
also like, I can't remember what it was called, but all I remember is that like Mark was like holding my hand, the nurse was rubbing my back, and I kept going, ooh, spicy, spicy, spicy. And it's literally my, my medical chart that my contractions are spicy. And I'm like, oh, great. So that's on my medical record now that my spicy. So that's what I would say as they were coming. They would like rub and do like the counter pressure, and then I'd fall back asleep. Then you hear spicy, spicy, spicy. So that went on until the medicine turned off. And I was like, oh, I can feel it. So then they checked me and I went from like 0 to like 3 centimeters, like kind of like overnight. So we're like, all right, like things are happening. That's good. And then I want to say for another 12 hours, I was like in agony going through Pitocin and I was, trying to walk around. I was on the ball. I was squatting, like anything I could to try to get like her to move along. And after those 12 hours, they gave me another check and they were like, we're so sorry. You're still at 3.
No.
And I was like, I wanted to die.
Uh,
Oh,
Gunny.
oh
He's old man.
no. No. But no, I wanted to die because like to go for me mentally, if I was going through that much pain, that meant that things were working. She was coming.
Sure.
And then when she wasn't and nothing had changed, I felt so defeated. I literally like because at that point my doula had showed up. I said, I want everyone out of the room but Mark. And I just sat there and I looked at him and he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. He was like, no, like, baby, like,
Like,
we're,
we're
yeah,
here.
we're well past that point. And so that's when I opted to get the epidural.
Did they
And
ask you at all for like
I,
C-section? Did they try to push for
they
that?
did, they didn't try to push for it. They're like, well, if you don't get an epidural or we don't see a lot of movement, you could get a C-section. And I was like, well, I don't want that. And I was like, and also if you're telling me my baby's heart rate's fine, my blood pressure's not crazy, like what medical need
Sure.
do we have for that? And as soon as I said that, they were like, okay. That's the one thing my mom was like really proud. She was like, everyone thought that I was telling you what to say, but I was like, nope, my daughter just advocated for herself. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm more than enough research.
Did
But
mom kind of coach you through some things, or was it mostly,
no, I told her that I wanted her there as my mom and not as a midwife.
yeah,
And that if things got crazy and I needed like real medical advice, I wanted her to step in. But if it was at a point where I could make my own informed decision, I wanted her to let me do that.
hmm
Because there were a couple times where they would talk to my mom and I'd be like, she's not the patient. And they didn't do that to be like disrespectful to me.
sure,
But I think it's just like that coworker relationship to get those like medical terms out. I think
hmm
she'd explain it to me. Like I'm well versed from my own like, you know, conditions I have on like enough medical terms that I was able to make things
right?
out. So it's like, no, like I can make my own informed decision. Like, thank you though, but
And
like,
if not, they should have put it in layman's terms where you could,
no, yeah, no,
even though your mom was there, right? Like, this is mom right now. She's not on
yeah,
shift.
exactly, exactly. And so like once we got that squared away, and like everyone did a fantastic job. Like I love the hospital staff there; they were really
Where'd you
great.
deliver?
Sincerely,
Yeah, I
yeah,
lovely.
they're
They
fantastic.
were
I
great.
love
Both my
them.
pregnancies, phenomenal.
I I would go there again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that process. I mean, I did not enjoy the epidural, but once I got that and it was hooked up, I was able to actually sleep, which was cool. I think I slept for like 4 hours. And I think
hmm
that's what my body needed because then I woke up and I was like, ooh, spicy again. And they're like, oh. And I was like, I thought I wasn't supposed to feel anything. And they're like, oh, you'll feel some pressure. And I was like, nah, fam, this is not pressure. This is pain. And they were like,
Mm,
oh, well, we'll give you like another boost. This is the one thing I hated. A lady who like flushed the lidocaine through
yeah.
didn't slowly push it. She went, and so it doesn't happen often, but for some people, like it'll feel like your nerves are on fire.
Oh, wow.
Guess who falls under that?
Poor Morgan.
So like felt like my nerves were on fire. I was like, oh, like ow, like tears streaming down. And they were like, oh yeah, sometimes it happens, but like it'll go away in a couple
You
seconds.
didn't
And
want to tell me this before you did?
well, I guess it doesn't happen often, so they're just like, for it happened often enough for me to know that.
Right.
So we do that again. Then I'm starting to like, get ready. And then I want to say like an hour and a half later, I was like, hey, I can feel my contractions again. And they're like, are you sure? They're like, you shouldn't really be able to feel anything. And I was like, oh yeah. So I got up and rolled over onto all fours, and they're like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I was getting myself into a squat. I was like, my legs and everything are working. Like I
Yeah.
can feel everything. So um I found out later that they push it through like lidocaine. Like obviously they do like the fentanyl like pump, but
Uh-huh.
it's lidocaine that they actually put through the catheter like into your bag. For me, whenever I get like dental work done, I can't do lidocaine because it just doesn't. It's not strong enough.
Oh,
I
no.
need benzocaine. I don't think they do that for like epidurals, but like had I known that, maybe that would have helped with
Yeah.
the mental process. But eventually, I'm starting to feel like they're not pitocin contractions anymore. Like my body is actually fully in sync, working through this. And this is a part where like Mark like tears up. So like we're going through it, and like actually starting to get ready to push or whatever. They're like, oh, you have to like wait for the doctor. And I was like, the doctor, like I'm ready to push because they had to like call her because they're on call. And my mom's there, like all the people are in there, and Mark's holding my hand, and like at that part I start to feel like really really like hot and like a little faint. And my mom thinks that I might have had that thing where you if your water's been broken for too long where you can get that little infection.
Uh-huh.
But like the way you take care of that is to deliver the baby, and we were already kind of in the middle of that. I went through like I mean like two or three of these like water like during that like hour and a half of pushing. And
Mm-hmm.
at one point I stopped, and like my mom's like, you can do it. And I was like, mommy, I can't. And like
Oh.
everyone was like, oh my God. Cause I was like, mommy, which I like haven't called my mom mommy since I was like a little kid. Like,
Yeah.
when you're hurt, you're like, mom, help. Like
Uh-huh.
literally what I said. And then Mark's like, you can do it, baby. And I'm like, can we just cut her out now? And and Mark's like, no, baby, I can see her hair. Like I'm almost making eye contact with her. And I'm like, I can't. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Tapping out.
I'm tapping out. And everyone's like, you're literally here. You can't tap out. And so obviously I give deliver her, they put her on my chest, and I'm like out of it. Um and they're like, sing to her, and I'm like,
Sing to her. What?
she was just kind of like, and they're like, sing to her. So I was like, happy birthday to you. And they're trying to get her stimulated, and she's not, at this point, we didn't realize that she wasn't breathing. She
Oh,
had a
wow.
heartbeat, but she wasn't breathing. So my mom got to catch her and put her on my chest. And then that's when my mom went to like full like midwife mode. She said, sorry, Mark, cut the cord, and then put her over. And then we have like, the ped doctors rushing in, and
Mm-hmm.
Mark says they were like beating her with towels. They weren't beating her with towels. They were like stimulating her to get
Yeah.
her.
I'm sure, but it looks like that little
Well,
precious baby.
oh my God. And so
I'm
like,
sure it was aggressive, and so he's like,
so we're both like, I'm sobbing, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with my baby? And Mark's like, what's happening? What's happening? And our doula, Kathleen, love Kathleen. She's like, hey, look, see this? That's her heartbeat. So you know that she is with us. They're just trying to get her breathing. And we were like, okay. Meanwhile, they're like, all right, mama, we need you to focus. And I'm like, focus on what? And they're like, it's time for your placenta. And I said, oh God, I'm not done yet. That didn't come out too.
they put a lot of pressure on you after this baby came out. Sing to her, and you're like, what?
Sing to her. I
Good.
said, who am I right now? I gotta sing to her?
We're on American Idol. What is going on?
Well, I just like thought like my voice would help stimulate it, but I'm like, I didn't plan on singing, like, it's
Right?
all I knew to have what to
I
sing was
need to know,
happy
like,
birthday.
yeah, that was a good for you for
I
even,
had
like,
nothing planned.
tell me, I don't know why, every time, like, I start to sing, I just, like, start singing Christmas songs.
'Cause it's whatever you have in the back of your head, just like you can just boom, you can just spit it out.
Uh,
And for me, it was happy birthday. Oh my god, that was the first song she heard was me like completely out of tune, like shaking, singing happy birthday.
and it
Oh
was
my god.
probably just beautiful to her ears.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we'll say. But yeah, after all that, well, once my placenta was not as bad as I was told it was. Then I was like bleeding a lot for a little bit, but they took care of that. And then we got to like hold her, and Mark was like, "Thank you for my baby," and I was like, "You're welcome. I never want to do this again." And then 2 hours later, I was like, "You sure you don't want another one?" He's like, "Woman, you were out of your mind." He's like, "Do you know how much of your blood I saw on the floor? What I saw you go through? Absolutely not." And I was like, "But she's cute."
Yeah.
So now I want another one, and Mark doesn't.
Alright.
I can't fault him. That was a lot to go through.
Yeah, it's tough. But you're the one that, I
I'm
mean,
the one who went through with it.
not to take away from what I feel like too, like, visually, they get
To
a different
see
perspective.
the person you love in pain and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But also, I'm the one who was in pain, and I'm the one who still wants to do it.
So that's is it still a conversation? We're still fighting for
So,
it?
it's kind of like we're gonna see where we're at. He wants me to start my treatments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like, there's stuff riding on this
So
decision.
once like, and I think that's a valid take. It's like once we figure out where everything is with my meds and my health in like 2 to 3 years, if we're
Mhm.
in a good place, my health is in a good place, then move forward. If not, then we already have this beautiful little girl who's going to be spoiled, and we might adopt. That's something that he's always said that he wanted to do.
Mhm.
I didn't have a problem with adopting. I would love to, take some little boy, little girl, and give them a good home. But
Yeah.
I, I, I miss as much as I hated being pregnant. I miss feeling those little kicks, and then I miss like the. It sound weird, but I miss like the pride of being like, I made this. And then, like, when I was, like, breastfeeding her or, like, pumping, like, I'm single-handedly, like, helping her thrive. Like, she is
Right.
thriving through, like, the love and connection that I have to be producing this milk for her and just seeing that. And now she's, eating.
Cheerios on the floor.
Yeah, and goldfish and pouchies and more,
I know, it's tough.
I miss the little snuggles. She still snuggles, but it's different.
Yeah, it's not the it's just not.
Now she kicks, she bites.
I wish we could just pick the things that we really liked throughout pregnancy, like, I mean, I had really great pregnancies. I I don't I wouldn't say I enjoyed being pregnant, like, there's some women who are like, "I really like being pregnant."
And good for them, I want whatever they're smoking.
And I'm like and I'm like, "Look, I, again, like, had no complications, like, it was good, and I still was able to work out." Now, being pregnant with a toddler was like a whole 'nother whirlwind. Like, I definitely would take my first pregnancy over everything, where
Mhm.
I, like, could nap and I could relax.
Yeah.
Like, the second one, you're just go, go, go. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's like we have to look at those moments and be like, "Okay, this is what I really enjoyed," or if you do decide to adopt, being able to pick and realize, like, maybe you won't be able to breastfeed or do some of those things, but it's like it's gonna be a whole new level of, like,
Mhm.
love and the things that you didn't experience. So it's
Yeah.
like looking at it from that lens of like, "Okay, well, whoa, this is still a new experience of, challenges and
Yeah.
bonding," and, so yeah, I mean, have you guys ever done, like, research on it, or Mark's just, like, open to the idea if you guys.
So, I've done a little bit of research. Mark actually used to volunteer when he was stationed in Japan at one of the orphanages.
Mhm.
So he would actually go there on, like, his weekends and, like, read to the kids, and they would do, I think they did, like, a beach trip or something where, like, he got to help out with that, and, like, he just was really, really passionate about that, and that's
Mhm.
kind of opened his eyes and heart to wanting to, when, he started a family, also adopt at some point. So, we've kinda looked into, like, the foster to adopt, but I had told him, I was like, "I don't know if my heart could take foster to adopt because they can come and go from, like,
Mhm.
their parents' house back to yours, and if we're going through that process, like, you are mine, you are my kid, we don't
Yeah.
get to go back to that situation. I'm here to love you and keep you," and
Yeah.
so
I think if I like, yeah, I feel like that'd be tough because if you found someone who you felt like was a match, but then they went back to their
and
families.
sometimes they can be in and out, and I want like, for any child, you want that consistency,
Yeah.
and so and that was something, like, I've kind of experienced from, like, my nieces and nephews. My parents, got, like, guardianship for them, and they were, kind of with their parents and then with my parents, and but, like, once they were with my parents, they had that consistency, and
Mhm.
they were thriving with that. So I kinda see that, like,
Mhm.
um, and so I don't want that for any kid that we might adopt. I want them to know that, like, when you're with us, like, when we adopt you and you're part of our family, like, we are your family. You don't have to worry about coming and going, and, like, if, open adoption or anything like that, if that's something that we look into, but I want them to know that, like, mommy is always here for you. No matter
Yeah.
where you go, daddy is always here for you. You don't have to worry about your next meal, worry about, the scary things you might have had from your previous life. And obviously not every child that's in, adopt, and
Yeah,
the
the
system
system.
goes through that, but I want to make sure they feel so secure with us that they don't worry
Right.
anymore. My
Yeah.
heart cannot take them be like, "Well, I don't want to go back to that place." I'm like, "I don't want you to either. That's why I want you
Mhm.
to be here with your sister and all the crazy amounts of dogs we have." So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's so important too to like know what you and Mark are comfortable with
Mhm,
because like selfishly I don't know if I could do an open adoption.
mhm,
But it's like I think doing the research, doing the studies, like, and then thinking from the lens of the kid, like, who are their parents and do they want to know that? And then I think too that probably I could only imagine um, maybe location matters too, right? Like if they know like, oh well, mom is just a state away versus mom's another country, right? Like my
mhm.
biological mom is in a whole nother country. Like that I feel like maybe could play a factor. But it's interesting. I have another mom that I'm interviewing soon who they're in the process of adopting. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like
cool, yeah.
I could imagine there's like a community
Mhm.
too of like just getting the information and preparing yourself. And so I'm interested to hear more. I mean, definitely I hope that Mark, comes to and he's like, "It's okay." But look, I think whatever direction you both choose
Mhm.
will be what's right for your family
Yeah,
and
most
what's right for
definitely.
you. And I think most importantly, like, take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's, like, the big thing. It's like, now that we have Violet, she's out here thriving, bullying other children and whatnot, bullying her mother. It's really just focusing on us getting back to where we need to be mentally, physically, and continuing to get her to thrive, and once we get to that, I don't wanna say, like, safe place, but a good, comfortable place, looking to see how we're going to expand our family again. It's not a question if we are, but just, like, it's a how.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ah, well, I love that for you.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan, I'm so proud of you and just the
Thanks.
journey. I can cannot believe you were at the hospital for just 5 days there doing all that and getting through and
Mhm.
Um, I really appreciate you coming on,
Yeah.
sharing your journey, sharing a little bit about you. I'm looking at doing season 2, so flash forward, maybe get you back on season 2 and
Oh,
see how
yeah,
you're
I'm
doing in
here.
a year.
Yeah.
But until then, keep hustling, keep yelling, and we'll cheers. So thanks for coming
Thanks for having me.
on. Come hang out with me on Instagram at Hustle and Healing Podcast for more real talk, laughs, and support. You can also catch the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and leave a review if you're loving what you hear. And do me a favor, share this episode with a fellow mom who needs to hear it. Keep hustling, keep healing, and don't forget to reheat that coffee. Again, see you next time.